What do you think is more important in a biography? A motivational fiction that deals you your dopamine fix, or generally a professional lens that reveals the complexities of the world, talentedly through the story of the figure's life? Walter Isaacson is a highly famed biographer, known for his seemingly detailed and engaging portraits of figures like Leonardo da Vinci, Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein, and Elon Musk. However, his work has faced several criticisms over the years. One of the main critiques of Isaacson's biographies is the superficial analysis and lack of critical depth. Some critics argue that Isaacson prioritizes narrative and fashionable flow over deep analytical insight and sometimes uncomfortable truths. His biographies are often seen as well-researched but somewhat conspired, avoiding controversial or unflattering interpretations of his subjects that are also true about them. For example, his Steve Jobs biography was criticized for glossing over Jobs' more unreliable business tactics and personal flaws. Another significant issue is his over-reliance on subject cooperation. Isaacson often works closely with his subjects, such as Jobs and Musk, or their estates, such as Einstein's and Da Vinci's, which can lead to hagiographic tendencies, making them seem vastly more heroic and capable than they were. This also results in the omission of villainous aspects, such as Musk's psychotic misconduct or Jobs having been a remorseless abuser of generally everyone susceptible to it, within his reach. Experts argue that this compromises knowledge and replaces portions of knowledge with portions of disinformation, in Walter's storytelling. Isaacson's biographies also tend to follow a contrived, formulaic approach. First, there is the genius childhood, where Isaacson highlights his subject's early signs of exceptional talent. He focuses on moments that seem to predict their future greatness, such as Albert Einstein being fascinated by a compass as a child, Leonardo da Vinci filling notebooks with sketches and observations, or Steve Jobs taking apart electronics in his garage. This stage sets up the idea and presumption that the subject was destined for greatness from a young age. Next comes the struggles and breakthroughs, where Isaacson shows how his subject overcame challenges to achieve success, challenges and successes which he cherry-picked from the subject's full context. This part follows a classic underdog to victory arc in fiction, including curated setbacks, such as Einstein working in a patent office before his big theories or Jobs being fired from Apple, key turning points like Da Vinci's Mona Lisa or Musk's founding of SpaceX, and perseverance, where the subject pushes through failure, proving their genius isn't just talent but resilience. This section of his biographies make their success falsely relatable to some of the readers, and feel earned and dramatic or special, hence along with some readers then beforehand erroneously feeling related to the bio's figure, this further makes happen the subsequent artificial feelings of some of the readers' deservedness and exceptionalism surrounding themselves, as a seemingly unique, hacking self-affirmation, dealing a dopamine session to those readers. Finally, Isaacson socially engineers their place in history by creatively summarizing their lasting impact in a legacy section. He emphasizes how they changed the world. Jobs revolutionized tech, Einstein reshaped physics, Franklin defined American ideals, and explains their influence today by speculating why we still study, admire, or use their innovations. While acknowledging flaws, he often frames them as quirks that made the genius possible. In other words, Walter generally acknowledges his biographed figure's malicious traits and acts, yet only to protect the credibility of his works. That's credibility towards selling more of his storied adverts. This leaves readers with a disconnected sense of awe and an unrealistically clean, satisfying ending. Hence, functionally his biographies read like a romance fiction. This structure works on some readers because it is easy to follow and feels like a hero's journey, allowing them to lower the guard, because it's enjoyable. It is also inspirational, making success seem like a self-exaggerating mix of only talent, hard work, and destiny. Furthermore, some readers primarily want to know what to expect from reading his biographies, even if substantial facts are sacrificed for predictability. For these readers, the consistency provides an addictive soothing effect in an otherwise chaotic existence. Consequently, Isaacson's books act as a cerebral fix for this kind of reader, falsely implying a formulaic and reliably stable world. However, this framework should serve as a red flag for glorification and revisionism. It is useful for filtering out inconvenient information and finding beneficial details that serve Isaacson's agenda, rather than what readers genuinely wish to learn. Crucial points of knowledge, such as the role of timely luck, unique material advantages, unique personal context, or the contributions of other necessary parties towards the figure's points of fame, are often left out. Walter's authoring framework functionally neglects the messy truths behind famed successes, and instead promotes a glorified branding for the biographed figures or their estates. That's glorified branding for some tricks and readers to attach themselves to, having bought his biographies and/or bought into the pufferfish inflated illusions of his biographed subjects' lives. Isaacson's work on The Innovators in 2014 was also criticized for weak thematic connections. In his attempt to cover the entire history of the digital revolution, he was criticized for a lack of a strong and well-verified central thesis and a delusional overemphasis on and personal obsession with individual genius, in unrealistic isolation from the existence, causing a negligent disregard for system-wide or collaborative innovation, which these two things are innovation in general. So viewers, why do you think he neglected this? This ties into another recurring criticism of Isaacson's work, his overemphasis on the great person theory. He tends to focus on lone geniuses rather than broader cultural, economic, or team-based factors behind breakthroughs. For example, his Leonardo da Vinci biography downplays the role of Renaissance patronage and workshop collaborations in da Vinci's work. The controversies surrounding Isaacson's Elon Musk biography in 2023 further exemplify these issues. Many reviewers found the book childishly romantic, given Musk's recent controversies, X's chaos, labor issues, political statements, and more at the time. Walter even admitted he didn't fact-check enough of Musk's claims, leading to credibility concerns surrounding this biography. Isaacson's writing style, while accessible, is often dismissed as not scholarly. His books are bestsellers because they're engaging, but learners sometimes dismiss them as romantic novels for the lazy and the loathing rather than rigorous scholarship for the learner and the achiever. While Walter Isaacson is undoubtedly a great storyteller, he is not a direct disseminator of information as people are generally led to expect. I wouldn't use the word author to best describe Walter Isaacson. I would use the term marketer instead, further describing him as a marketer who authors books for marketing purposes. Of course, most authors are trying to sell their books. Rather, what I'm saying is a large swath of his marketing only begins post-purchase, when the reader dives into his work and begins reading. Readers do not get to know what the figure is about directly, as implicitly promised, when he labels his books biographies. Instead, they come to understand how Walter, and possibly in collaboration with one of the figures biographed or their estate, wants the figure to be storied and marketed to the world. These are two different stories, yet Walter is beneficially complicit in allowing readers to continue to erroneously believe his stories are the figure's story, rather than readers being aware pre-purchase that they'll be purchasing a storied advertisement by Walter, possibly in collaboration with one of the figures or their estate in his supposed biographies of the figures claimed to be biographed.